The most common shot for amateur golfers, and also the most frustrating shot for amateur golfers, has to be the slice with driver. It causes a lack of yardage off the tee, it causes us to miss lots of fairways, it could cause us to even be going through dozens of golf balls when we're out there, and overall, it's just not enjoyable when we want to be flushing our driver and hitting those beautiful little straight shots or even a tiny little draw. Well, luckily for you, in this video, I'm going to share with you a drill and two little simple tweaks that I want you to do to make sure that when you're getting the driver out of the bag, you're confident that you're going to be delivering the club from the inside and getting the most out of your driver. It's so simple, just follow along, and the next time you reach for driver, you're going to know that you've got the right swing and you've got some confidence in that club. And the first thing that we need to do to make sure that we're going to get this driver lesson implemented is hit the subscribe button, because if you do that, I guarantee it works. Let's get stuck into it. So I'm on the 18th tee here at the Asia course of Le Cala, and this will be the slicer's nightmare, those shots that I talked about a second ago, because if I were to hit one here with the slice that we see so much of, because we're coming from over the top and not from the inside, I'm potentially going to hit it into the hotel, or I'm going to carve it into the junk down there. And what we need to do is create a little station that is going to help us get this inside swing. And as we can see me setting it up here, what I've done is put a driver down behind the golf ball running up the target line, and then a foot outside of that I've put my back cane. It's angled a little bit higher so the driver can pass up, and then in front of me again a driver in front and a foot inside. This time I've got a pole as well, because what would happen if I were to make the common mistake and what I talked about in the start of the video, where I'm swinging from out to in, I would most likely clatter this stick on the way down, and if I weren't to clatter it, if I got excessive as I'm coming through, I then hit this one on the way through. But what we need to do is train our arc to be coming from the inside as opposed to that outside manner. Now, I mentioned a little tweak that I want you to do to start off with, and what we need to think about is the shoulders, because the big thing with our out to in swingers, when we see in transition the club start to come down, what we will also see is the trail shoulder going higher and towards the golf ball. Thus the club gets steeper and travels from outside to in. So the first little tweak that we need to make sure that we're doing when we address our golf ball now, I want us to feel that we tilt the shoulders a little bit so the lead shoulder is up, and then I want us to feel a little bit closed, so pointing where that slice would normally end up. The reason for that being is it's going to give us that feeling of what we actually are going to try and create when we go through impact. But all I want you to do, and do this slowly for me, and it may even be worth, if you're doing this, I know we're trying to improve our drivers, doing this with maybe a 6 or a 7 iron at half speeds to actually get the feeling of what we're doing. But all I want to simply do is make sure that now that I get my good setup, I can see that my shoulders are square to this club on the floor. I'm going to tilt them and I'm going to close them ever so slightly. I want to make some swings where I feel on the way back I don't hit the cane here. But more importantly, on the way down, I create that tilt and I feel that the club is passing underneath this cane and quite away from it. But then importantly as well, I feel I swing out, up and over the cane in front of me. I've not got the over the top down here and then down and across into the cane or out inside it in front of me. So real simple. Set up, square, tilt, close, and like I say, just a small one, just getting a feeling for where this arc is going. In and there, that's a good one. I've over-egged it. You can see that I've got the big hooked shot because I've actually got the club face closed to the arc that I was swinging on. So it really came from that inside, but because of maybe being a slicer in the past, I wanted to shut that face to make sure that it wasn't going even further right. So that's a great little shot that we want to try and see to start off with. That ball starting right and turning left. Once you're more confident with it, we can start to build speed back into the swings. But like I say, to start off with, all we want to try and do each time is make sure we have those small ones like we see now, with the ball turning right to left at half the speed with the driver. but then we start to build that back up to now and try and feel that as we're going through it, we get the shoulders tilting in the manner that we want. So one more little rehearsal before we move on to the second stage of this drill. But in, we're going to pass under and we're going to pass up and over on the way out. And better. I'm starting to really get that ball turning a little bit right to left. Yes, there's not much speed in it, but that's where we now transition into the second feeling to add the speed in and blend in what we're learning by just setting up this simple practice station. Now the second part of our drill is this little one here. Don't worry if you can't stick the cane into the ground, you can lay it on flat. But what I'm now essentially doing here is giving myself a visual on the floor of where I want the club head to pass as I'm going through my follow through. A lot of the time I see a lot of people, because we want to try and hit the golf ball as hard as we can with driver, which leads to that trail shoulder getting high and the club getting steep, we almost forget about, well, where does this golf swing, where does the arc and the shape of this golf swing want to go from when it's coming into impact, and where's it going once I've actually hit the golf ball? Because that's an essential part afterwards, because with driver, what we want to try and do is hit the golf ball on the up. We want to try and get it 1, 2, 3, 4 degrees maybe on the up, and to do that we need to make sure that we're coming from that inside arc and then traveling upwards as we're going through. Sometimes we think so much about just trying to get the golf ball actually here on the inside that we stop at this point and think, well, what actually follows on from that? But if we create a visual of what we can see here where the cane is angled up, that's giving me an idea that as I'm approaching this golf ball now and I collide with it at impact, I want to have the feeling that my club is now rising up out and away from me, as opposed to what we see when we get it from the inside, where we see a lot of this sort of like release and impact position where my arms are crumpling up and the club is traveling down and across from me here. So from stage one, where we've just made a little setup tweak and getting our shoulders right, and then getting the feeling of what the arc would more feel like on the downswing by avoiding the backwards cane that we can see in that drill. Now what we're going to do is add more speed in, but we're thinking more now as, well, the club wants to be traveling up here, and the last little secret sauce we want from here is to feel that as it's traveling up, the face is starting to look away from where the club is now traveling, so we get that sort of David Beckham-like free kick action where he's wrapping his foot around the football. We want to do the same when we make a golf swing. The club's traveling from the inside while the foot or the face just wraps around the ball to try and create that little bit more of the draw shot as we're going through. So all I would suggest with this little drill here, even without the golf ball to start with, just have a few practice swings where we get set up, we tilt the shoulders, we close them off, and we vision now, well, what does it look like? What does it feel like? And to you, as you're doing this, as someone who's been swinging from out to in, as you're going into impact and post-impact, you'll feel like you've got a lot of room between your hands and your chest. Good saying here, you're separating the heads. You're not bringing them closer, you're separating the heads and letting that head release as we go through. Once you've had those little rehearsals and you're confident with it, golf ball in, and I would suggest again maybe a little less speed to start off with, but build it up to your bigger swings. And what we ultimately get left with, if we get it right, is something where we get it from the inside and we get a lovely little draw. Not my best strike, a little bit of a toe one there, but you know what it was? It was longer, it wasn't slicey, and it's in play. I just need to spend a little bit more time on that drill. So a great two-stage drill for you to get the most out of your driver. I hope that lesson has helped you. If it has, hit the subscribe button down below so you don't miss any future lessons. And why not watch another lesson here where I'm going to help you hit your irons better.